Welcome back to part 2. I am back here with Mr. David T.S. Wood and Dave.
And I'm here with my good friend, Jen Jefferies.
Hey. So you are known, your branding, your everything in life is that you are the guide to a kick-ass life. You're like my guide to a kick-ass life. And I've lived and embodied so much of your teachings for the last decade or more. Tell me, how do you put into words, what is a kick-ass life?
Yeah, it's such
For
a great
people who don't know you yet.
Yeah, I get goosebumps even thinking about it because I think that when we look at life and again, I've not answered this question, like, in fact, I'm not sure I've been asked this question. So answering this question and giving you context, when we kind of look at life, the one thing that none of us understand is how long our life will be. When I was younger, I always believed, Jen, I'm sure I've told you this, I always thought I wouldn't live past 40. And so I really attempted to squeeze a lot of things into my first 40 years on the planet, hence backpacking around the world for 10 and a half years, right? So this idea of a kick-ass life for me, the summary would be, regardless of and I was challenged. I know that you know this. Just a year and a half ago or so, I had a near-death experience where I actually believed I was dying. I had a major injury. I'm in a third world. And so I actually believed in that moment I was about to die. And I just said to Robin, this guy I was on a boat at the time. And I said to this guy, Robin, I said, just tell my kids I died with a smile on my face. And I was really happy and I love them, and just that's, I think, the kick-ass life, Jen, in a summary, is regardless of when that last breath occurs, is that we're so present to surrendering. And like, if the plane's going down, I'm not going to be the guy screaming. I'm a pilot, you know that. I'm not going to be the guy screaming. I don't want my last 4 minutes on Earth screaming. I want to be there, like, just being grateful to say, oh my God, look, I got to live this life. So for me, because of that mindset, a kick-ass life is ease. It's waking up in the morning, and from the moment, even, you could feel sore, you could have this going on, there may be some challenges, you may be going through a divorce, that all this stuff can happen. I mean, shit happens to everyone. Absolutely. But waking up and whatever's happening, that you kind of, I always talk to myself that I'm present, I'm in this moment, and I'm living this moment fully, because I have no idea how many more moments. So regardless of the outside pressure, regardless of, it can be whatever's happening, is that I'm living, squeezing, I'm doing, I'm saying yes to things. And that's the big one, is just being able to say yes, waking up and saying yes. Like, how long before this podcast did you text me and say, hey, any chance? What'd I say to you?
Yeah, you got 15 minutes. That's it.
I was like, I'm on the toilet. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But a kick-ass life is that, yes, just say yes, because why not, right? So I think it's, for me, if I could encapsulate it, is that those last seconds on Earth, and if it was to happen for you tomorrow,
yes,
let's say if I die this afternoon, and I can see it coming, is that I die with a smile on my face in absolute gratitude for having lived fully. And to live fully can mean everything or different things. I mean, some of you, you may have an idea of that. Fully is just fully present, fully in the moment, regardless of, even if you're sitting on the couch watching a movie, do it well, light a fire, make some popcorn, make it memorable, right? Squeeze the juice out of it. So it doesn't have to be these, you don't have to go to the moon, although I do love taking on lots and lots of challenges as well, because that excites me. Yeah. So does that answer the question, Jen? I've never answered it, but
it does. I call it a juicy life. You call it a kick-ass life. I had my version of your thing in my 20s, and I vowed to not waste a minute of my life since. That I just take advantage of every moment of life, and I live a juicy life. My Jeep's called the Juicy Jeep. It is. So if people are sitting here, it's all right for you. You're a mega millionaire, David, and Jen, you do your thing. That's all good. But I'm shy little me or something. What's something we could give them as a place to start to live their juicy life? No matter their age, because I've got people, in their 80s and that who listen to this. Got people.
This is such a great question, and you saw me teaching on stage just a few days ago in Brisbane, And I sort of drew out the tree of life, right? And I said, look, here's the tree of life. And, you know, and imagine this beautiful tree, and on it are fruits. And what people do is they look at the fruits and they say, look, they're not big enough. They're not juicy enough. They're not ripe enough. They're not tasty enough. And those things is what we do. And if we want to change the fruits, that we've got to look at the roots. And the thing that changed my life and really allowed me to live it, and I say spectacular because I just don't have bad days. I mean, I don't even understand how people can do it for a whole day. It's not like I don't have bad moments. I mean, shit happens all the time, but I just don't let it become more than it is. Okay, that happened. The house just burned down. You've seen me do this, like with
the house did burn down. I know the house didn't burn down, but there was a fire in your place. Yeah.
I get to choose how I respond to that, right? So, you know, the idea then that the fruits, but I've got to go to the roots. And what I realized, Jan, is the thing that everyone could learn from is to rewrite your vocabulary, is to understand that most of the thoughts that you're thinking currently, I'm right at the camera to you listening, most of your thoughts, and this is scientific data, right, are repetitive. We think 70 to 80% the same thoughts day after day after day after day, and the greater majority of them are negative. And then when we look at a 2-year-old and we understand where our thoughts come from our environment. And so the environment, if you grew up in a negative environment, or maybe you were bullied at school, or maybe your grandparents, or you grew up in a house, whatever, right? So every thought you think, right, can be reprogrammed. There's a thing called neuroplasticity. So if I want to change the fruits of my tree, I go to the roots, and the roots come from our thinking. So what I did, Jen, is I worked so hard at eradicating negative thought. It didn't mean that things didn't happen that some people would deem negative, right? So if I missed here's a great story. I miss a flight, right? Because we're stuck on a runway for 4 hours. Everyone on the plane's pissed off except me and one girl. And we end up talking, and now we've been dating for 8 years. So if I'd been an asshole, or she'd been really bitchy about the whole thing, I wouldn't have even talked to her. But because she was in the moment as well, right? So the one thing that you can do right now is look at any negative thought you have and reprogram yourself. Decide that you're going to rewrite a new language and eradicate any words that have low energy or that take you down these negative thinking rabbit holes. And you just start to reprogram. And there's a thing called neuroplasticity, scientifically says that we can reprogram our brain. So Jen, if we just do that, if I have a head that I manage, in other words, I am the gatekeeper of my thinking, and I do not allow negative thoughts to run wild in my head. When I catch them, I acknowledge them, and they take a while, and I reprogram. I don't want to think that. So, for example, you never, or you rarely ever hear me use the word need. And if I catch myself and I say, well, I don't need to, I choose to, right? I don't like the word hate. I mean, I've used it as an illustration, but there's all these different words that are low energy or negative, and I decide that I do not want to use them. I can rewrite my vocabulary. And when I'm around other people who are negative, typically what happens is you become very much a part of the environment. So if you're around a lot of negative people, your language will reflect that, but you're going to be drawn into this negativity. I can be around negative people. I can hear their negativity because I'm so sensitized to it, but I don't jump in their negativity with them. I stay out here, and what ends up happening most of the time, Jen, and you've seen this, is they get drawn into my orbit. Absolutely. Listen to this. I've never said this before, but they get drawn into my positive orbit. I don't get sucked into their negative vortex, right? So it's just like, so we're walking through the world. If we've really managed this thinking process, and we're conscious of every single thought we think, and it doesn't take long, it takes about a year of conscious thinking. And so when I live in a world where I have really positive thoughts, and it's not hypey, I don't walk around like, it's not like, it's just like, hey, that shit just happened. And I get to name it, and I get to reference it, and I get to describe it, and I get to live into it. So I just choose not to live in this pinball game of negative thinking, which I think the majority, if you listen to most people, and I used to know a guy called T. Harv Eker, who wrote the book, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And I trained hundreds of thousands of his students on money, and he said this, he said, give me 5 minutes. If I talk for 5 minutes with any human being, I will tell you their financial destiny for the rest of their life. And I can do the same thing. You can listen to someone for 5 minutes and you can tell exactly what their life is by the words and the energy and the negativity or the positivity in their life, right? So that's what I think, Jen, is a really good way to think.
It is. And I just want to add this piece to it, or get your thought on it. What I've noticed is, because I've worked with so many people, and my brain does the same, and it did in the surf this morning. I had the camera on my board, and I got dumped off a few waves, and my brain went, wow, I can make a bloopers reel. And I went, oh, old thought. And I just let it go. And it was like, no, I'm going to make a reel about, the cool waves I caught for the day. But my brain went to the default, show the scrub. But instead of me, what I see people do is they'll notice, and then I'm going, oh, fucking stupid. And they guilt trip themselves, versus I just go, how cool, I actually noticed that, it's gone, next. And I replace it with a positive thought, like, yeah, I'm going to do the, show them what I want. So guilt, I know as a naturopath, it changes our body chemistry faster than any shit food on the planet. It just does. But that's a default for most people that I've observed, is that they'll notice and then give themselves a hard time, even in that learning process, like you say, for a year or something to replace it, versus just bring in a positive thought.
Well, and without any new age kind of BS or whatever, not that new age is BS, but let's say without all that, the practicality of it is, when I walk out into the world and I have a positive energy and I'm aware, and it doesn't matter, I can think of everyone I've met today. We were just down at the beach down here, we're in the Sunshine Coast, and we went walking, and everyone I interacted with, I could still see their faces because I was interested. But nice things happen. It looks like there's this magical spell that's woven. People go out their way. Like, for example, Andrew, whose house I'm at right now, he slept over in my hotel room the other night, and it's because the kitchen was already closed. And I called down, and the girl's name's Sarah, and I said, hey, Sarah. She goes, oh, hi. And because I'm always connecting to her and I could see her in my face, I'm not expecting anything from Sarah. But it's just like, hey, Sarah, I know the kitchen's closed. I said, but I've got this guy who's going to sleep over. Is there any chance? And about 20 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. And Andrew, he talked about this to his friend yesterday. And as this cheese plate shows up, and I said, oh, do you want me to sign for it? No, it's free, right? Yeah. So now, not only was the kitchen closed, right? But because of kindness and because of this energy we're talking about, nice things, but I didn't expect it. If she'd have said, sorry, Dave, I would have been as kind to her. I would have, right? Yeah. It's not, you're not being kind to get. No. Being kind to the state of mind that you're, regardless of what's going on, regardless of what you get. But because that there's this, the lead is such a beautiful lead, because you're aware of people, you see people. I think that's a really important thing, Jen, is noticing people, seeing people, and noticing what's beautiful about them. I do that with everyone. This girl Anna today, who served us breakfast, I mean, she's from the Czech Republic. How do I know these things, right? And I know that she's been in Australia for 3 years, and she'd love to get a visa to stay here, and she loves her home country. I mean, how do you learn all that in a matter of seconds? And I care, and I just said, you've got such beautiful energy. And I wasn't trying to hit on her, just to tell her how great she is, right? And that's the world I think we can live in.
It's the world I definitely live in, since, being mentored by you for so long. So if you are wanting to live a kick-ass life, everyone, start to notice your thoughts. Don't give yourself a hard time. And all the things Dave's talking about, just, be the vibe that you want to attract in life. It's not woo-woo, it's hard-ass science. And I know through my own personal life that, living this way is way easier and way more fun and way more kick-ass and juicy and all those kind of things. Mr. David T. Ashwood, I love you dearly. I really do. Thank you for being the man you are in my life. Thank you for being the man you are for this planet. You take a beautiful stand to help everybody grow. So thank you.
I love you too. And I want to say this, I don't want you to cry at the end of it though.
Don't be.
I love who you are. And I love that because of this work you've done. I look at you with Alice. I look at you with your waves. I look at you with even your online community now, how quickly it's growing. It's a reflection of this beautiful heart that you have, and the practice, and the ease with which you're living. So, and I think you're really a true example of a kick-ass life. So